So anyway, welcome everybody who's online and everybody who is who has come to Lancaster to take part. My name is Timothy Douglas. I'm a lecturer in the engineering department and the Material Science Institute here at Lancaster University. I'm also, as you may guess, very interested in languages. And I'll start by just explaining why we're having this conference and to introduce our invited speakers today and what they're going to talk about, and then some practical matters connected with this evening event. And then I'd also like to think about what, at the end of the conference, we hope we might sort of continue with this initiative where we combine languages and science, two sort of topics that are very closely interrelated, but actually are not always seen as such. Okay. Why did we decide to organize this so here today, this event? You all have seen this flyer. Well, people often think that you don't do languages and sciences. So sometimes people talk about a fork in the road, as we say, between languages or science, one or the other. But I contend that the brightest path, luckily, is actually when you do both. And I think I would plead for a more sort of holistic sort of approach to this, and also to education in general, where by actually doing languages and by doing science, you can, as I like to say, kill two birds with one stone. Languages are good for science, and science is good for learning languages. Okay, so I also find that this topic is not discussed very much, because science and engineering professions, they say they're very international, or at least sometimes they pride themselves on being very international. But the role of languages within these professions is hardly ever discussed. It's like a sort of invisible topic. And I mean, it's a very sort of complex issue, but I think that because of the perception of this fork in the road that I mentioned, and also the fact that many people who do science lack knowledge of languages, and then many people who are teaching language are not experts in science, this helps to reinforce this idea that the two are separate. Okay, so what we want to do today, we want to show you some example of people who combine languages and sciences in their careers. So we have some invited speakers today. And also at the end, we want to have a round table discussion, which you're all welcome to attend, where you're also welcome to contribute, where we discuss, how we might go about integrating science into language teaching, not just necessarily at secondary school level, but also at university level, primary school level, wherever. And we'd be interested in hearing, your experiences as well. What successes have you had? What challenges have you faced? What ideas do you have to combine these two things? Okay. So we have four invited speakers today. Our first is Marta Melnick, who is many things, a polyglot, a organizer of polyglot conferences, an IT specialist, an author, a blogger. And then we also have Cyril Rollet, who will be giving a talk about science and from a sort of francophone sort of perspective today. He's a lecturer here in French studies at Lancaster University. We will also have Luis Pignot, who is also many things, a polyglot, a chemist, and also a school teacher, and he will provide us with his insights on sort of combining languages teaching and science teaching, which he has actually done. And then you were going to have Laura Jane Baxter, but I have bad news for you. You'll just have to hear me again, and then I will be telling you about some of my own thoughts on languages and science. So this is the program for today. We've just been chatting. This is me here. Then my colleague, Derek Hurd, the head of the Department of Languages and Cultures here at Lancaster, will give an introduction to how languages and science, how they might be combined, what challenges we face, and so on. Then Marta Melnick via Teams will be given a talk on types of languages in information technology. And then we will have a session in French from Cyril Rollet, Francophone Contributors to Science and the Heritage and How to Include Science in a Language Lesson. Personally, I think that we should not be talking about learning languages all the time in English. There's enough of that. If we have people who are actually using the languages, I think it's more convincing. So I'm very glad we have a session in French. Then Luis's title is The Language of Science, Young Learners, Scientific Literacy and Cultural Models. Then I will talk about, actually, I've left the title unchanged from what Laura Jane Baxter was going to talk about, challenges we face when integrating the learning of science and languages. But I will give you my own opinion on the subject. Then we'll have a discussion, and you're welcome to participate via MS Teams. And then there'll be a close, and then we'll network. So we have just practical matters quickly. We have people in person here. We also have online participants. I'm glad that over 60 people showed interest in online participation from all over the world. You're very welcome to ask questions in the Teams chat, and we'll leave the meeting open during the break so you can also chat with each other online or chat with us here. One request, if you're not talking, if you're not presenting, please turn off your camera and please mute your microphone so that attention is focused on the presenter. So thank you very much for that. And then in the roundtable discussion, some of us will be here and we'll take some questions that you may have. We'll also talk about the take-home messages from this event, and then also discuss ideas about how we might link science and languages better in the teaching of both of them. Okay. And then, because this is still quite a new initiative, please tell us, if you want to introduce science into language teaching or the other way around, please tell us what support, what you would find useful. And then there's going to be a post-conference questionnaire that I'll send to all of you so we can get feedback about what we did well, what we can do better, and what you would like to see in the future. Also, thanks to people who, of course, gave us money for this, the Creative Multilingualism initiative of Professor Catherine Kohl of Oxford University. And above all, thank you all to you for showing interest. You can't have a conference without any participants. So I'm delighted that so many people have found this interesting and want to visit. So in that case, I'll stop sharing my screen then. And then I'd like to invite Derek to come and give his talk.
So I'm Derek Hurd. I'm head of languages and cultures. I'm also senior lecturer in Chinese here at the University of Lancaster. So I do have a lot of experience in teaching language and culture, not so much science, but I'm extremely open to this wonderful opportunity to talk about how we can have a much more holistic approach to education. And you're right, Tim. It's not just about language and science. It's about the entire way we teach and research, not just at university level, but secondary level, even primary level as well. Many decades ago, C.P. Snow came up with the famous humanities and science, two cultures argument that was quite controversial at the time. And I think we've got past that now to a large extent. There's been a lot of effort put into interdisciplinary working, interdisciplinary research, even interdisciplinary teaching and collaboration. And so I think that's, in my experience in universities at least, that's the direction of travel. There's much more can be done though. And it'd be interesting for me to learn also from colleagues here about the situation in secondary level with regard to the interaction between different disciplines. I think it's still true, though, that many of us work quite tribally in our disciplinary areas, even though we venture out now and again to be interdisciplinary. And we really need to break down even further this kind of tribal affinity to our disciplines and their methodologies and their concepts. And I know that we face a lot of challenges, and institutional structures often work against us in terms of timetabling and the degree combination possibilities and so on. But we can effect change. And I think today's event, where we have a space to talk about the synergies and the possibilities here, events like today, very, very important, where we can create a new kind of space where we bring together languages and science in innovative ways. So it's not just about transforming ourselves into more interdisciplinary teachers and researchers. It's about transforming the institutions that we work in as well. We really need a much more openness and a willingness to work in interdisciplinary, in genuinely interdisciplinary ways from regulators, from funders. And they are making great strides, but there's more can be done. Peer reviewers for research journals, you know, who need to be open to innovative collaborative methodologies and so on. So we need to find ways of working together. I think we need to drop the either-or approach. So often we steer people, young people, into educational trajectories which are either science heavy or arts heavy, humanities heavy. And as I said, there are structural forces that kind of propel people in these ways, which is why we need the institutional transformation as well. And what I would really like us to, how I'd really like us to conceive of this is not just adding or emphasizing languages in the sciences or science in the languages, but think of a new space, a new area of exploration where we can start to create our own vocabularies and concepts and methodologies where language and sciences are truly working together. So it's something new. It's not about just inserting an extra dimension into the existing silos. We need something innovative in disciplinary terms or non-disciplinary terms. I think this, if we have that kind of openness and genuine synergies are found between languages and sciences, we may just be able to encourage more girls into the sciences, and we may be able to encourage more boys into the languages. If we can all, through this kind of holistic education, feel more fulfilled, then we might be doing our well-being something good at the same time. So on that note, I shall end and hand back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Derek. So.